The dense jungle of Amazonia pressed in from all sides as Staff Sergeant James Cooper led his four-man reconnaissance team through the undergrowth. The air was thick with humidity, and strange bird-like creatures called from the towering purple trees above. Their mission was simple: investigate the unusual energy signatures that their orbital satellites had detected in this sector. "Sir, movement at 2 o'clock," whispered Private Rodriguez, his hand tight on his pulse rifle. Cooper raised his fist, and the team froze in place. Through the strange vegetation, Cooper spotted something that made his heart race: a flash of blue skin, much taller than any human. The legendary Amazonian warriors were no longer just rumors. Their intelligence reports hadn't done them justice. These aliens were magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. The figure moved with incredible grace despite being at least 8 feet tall. Cooper counted 3 more moving through the jungle. Their armor seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted colors to match their surroundings. If it wasn't for their advanced motion sensors, his team might never have spotted them. "Hold position," Cooper subvocalized into his neural comm. Let them pass, but fate had other plans. A piercing shriek filled the air as one of the local predators burst from the underbrush, startling both groups. In an instant, chaos erupted. The Amazonians spun toward the human position, their weapons charging with an ominous hum. "Contact," Cooper shouted, diving behind a massive tree trunk as energy bolts scorched the air where he'd been standing. His team scattered, taking cover and returning fire with practiced precision. The Amazonians moved like lightning, their enhanced strength letting them leap between trees and cover ground at incredible speeds. But Cooper noticed something. They fought as individuals, not as a team. Each warrior sought their own glory rather than coordinating their attacks. Rodriguez, Martinez, suppressing fire on the left flank. "Williams, with me," Cooper ordered, his mind racing through tactical options. The Amazonians were stronger, faster, and better armed, but they weren't fighting smart. Cooper spotted their leader, a warrior with distinctive red markings on her armor. She was pressing his team hard, but her aggression had left her flank exposed. He keyed his neural comm again. "Williams, sonic grenade on my mark, 3 o'clock." The small device arsed through the air, and Cooper was already moving. The grenade's blast stunned the Amazonian leader for just a second, but that was all Cooper needed. He tackled her legs while she was disoriented, using her own momentum and his combat training to bring her down. Before she could recover, he had his pulse rifle pressed against her armor's power core. "Stand down," he shouted, hoping their translation software was working. "Order your warriors to stand down, or I'll have no choice." The Amazonian leader went still. Through her transparent faceplate, Cooper saw something unexpected. Not rage or hatred, but curiosity. Her eyes, a striking shade of silver, studied him intently. She barked an order in her native tongue, and her warriors immediately ceased fire. Cooper maintained his position, pulse rifle steady, as he called to his team. "Secure the area. Watch for reinforcements." The leader spoke, her words translated through Cooper's neural implant. "I am Cathera, war leader of the Third Hunt. You have defeated me through cleverness rather than strength." There was something in her voice. Was that respect? "Staff Sergeant James Cooper, Earth Expeditionary Force," he responded, still not lowering his weapon. "We're here on a peaceful mission. We detected energy signatures and came to investigate." Thera made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace. You bring weapons for peace." "We bring weapons because we're not foolish," Cooper replied. "The galaxy's a dangerous place, but weapons don't have to be used just because they're carried." "Wisdom," Thera said, and Cooper could have sworn she smiled. "Perhaps there is more to your species than we thought. You will take me prisoner now." Cooper nodded, carefully helping her up while keeping his weapon ready. "Until we can sort this situation out, yes. But you'll be treated with respect." Indeed, Cathera stood, towering over him. This should prove interesting. As Cooper's team secured their unexpected prisoner, he couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was going to change everything, not just for him, but for both their species. He just didn't know yet whether that change would be for better or worse. The holding cell at Forward Operating Base Echo wasn't really designed for someone of Cthulhu's size. Cooper watched through the energy barrier as the Amazonian warrior sat cross-legged on the reinforced floor, her silver eyes closed in what appeared to be meditation. Despite being a prisoner, she carried herself with dignity. "You watch me with great interest, small warrior," Cthulhu said without opening her eyes. The translation software had improved after processing more of her speech patterns. Cooper stepped closer to the barrier. "I have questions. My superiors have questions. We've been in this sector for 6 months, but your people have avoided all contact until now." Cthulhu opened her eyes, fixing him with that intense silver gaze. "Perhaps we did not find you worthy of contact. Yet you..." She tilted her head. "You defeated me using your mind rather than strength. This is unusual." "Humans had to learn to be clever," Cooper explained, pulling up a chair. "We're not the strongest, fastest, or toughest species out there. But we adapt. We overcome." "Show me," Cthulhu said suddenly. "Show me how your people achieved the stars. Our histories say you were primitive just a few centuries ago." Cooper activated his tablet, projecting a holographic display of human history. "We started with simple rockets," he explained, showing her the early space programs. "Then better rockets. Then fusion drives. Each generation built on what came before, solving problems step by step." Thera leaned forward, clearly fascinated. "You did not receive the gift of spaceflight from the elder races. You built everything yourselves." "We had to," Cooper said. "No one was going to give us the stars, so we reached out and took them." This drew a laugh from Cthulhu, a rich, surprisingly musical sound. "Perhaps our scholars were wrong about your people. They said humans were too weak to be worthy of notice. But strength comes in many forms, does it not?" Cooper nodded. "Physical strength is just one tool. Strategy, technology, teamwork. These are all different kinds of strength. Like your battle formation in the jungle," Cthulhu said thoughtfully. "Your warriors moved as one, covering each other, multiplying their effectiveness. We Amazonians," she frowned, "we fight for individual glory. It has been our way for 10,000 years. And how's that working out for your people?" Cooper asked carefully. Thera's expression darkened. "We have not advanced in centuries. Our technology remains the same. Our territories do not expand. She hesitated. "We stagnate." "Change can be good," Cooper offered. "Adaptation is how species survive." "Is that why you're here? To change us?" There was an edge to Cthulhu's voice. "We're here to explore, to learn, to establish diplomatic relations if possible," Cooper said honestly. "Change happens naturally when cultures meet. Both sides learn from each other." Thera stood up, her height impressive even in the confined space. "And what could the mighty Amazonian Empire learn from humans?" "Maybe how to think differently," Cooper suggested. "And maybe we could learn about enhancement biotechnology from you. Both sides benefit." "You interest me, small warrior," Cthulhu declared. "Your mind is sharp, your words carry wisdom. I request to speak with you more." Cooper smiled. "That's why I'm here. Though my name is James, or Cooper if you prefer, not small warrior." "James." Cthulhu tested the name. "Tell me more about your Earth, about how your people overcame their limitations. I wish to understand." As Cooper settled in for a longer conversation, he noticed Cthulhu's guards exchanging meaningful looks. It wasn't normal for an Amazonian warrior, let alone a war leader, to show such interest in another species. But then again, nothing about this situation was normal. Little did Cooper know, this conversation would spark changes that would reshape both their civilizations forever. 3 days into Cthulhu's captivity, the base commander had to assign her larger quarters. The holding cell was simply too small for extended diplomatic discussions, which was what these sessions with Cooper had clearly become. The new room, a converted storage unit, gave the Amazonian warrior space to move around while she and Cooper shared stories of their peoples. "So your children are raised by their mothers and fathers together?" Cthera asked, pacing the room with fluid grace. "Not in warrior creches." Cooper sat at a safe distance, though he noticed she made no aggressive moves anymore. "Most are, yes. We believe family bonds make us stronger." "Fascinating," Cthera said. "In our culture, children are taken to training camps as soon as they can walk. They learn combat, strategy, and survival. But," she paused, looking troubled, "they do not learn to think differently. Each generation copies the one before." Private Rodriguez entered with their daily meal, standard rations for Cooper, and a specially prepared high-protein feast for Cthera. The young soldiers still looked nervous around their towering guest. "Thank you, small one," Cthera said kindly, noting Rodriguez's discomfort. A week ago, she would have considered such fear proper. Now it bothered her. After Rodriguez left, Cooper noticed Cthera studying her food with unusual interest. "Something wrong with the meal." "Your people made this specially for my biology," she said. "You studied our nutritional needs and adapted. More change, more adaptation." She shook her head. "Do you know how long it took my people to create new battle rations when we found our original ones were running low?" "How long?" "We didn't," she said flatly. "We fought 3 wars over the remaining supplies instead of developing new ones. That was 2 centuries ago. We still fight over those same resources." Cooper was shocked. "But your technology is so advanced." "Inherited," Cthera said bitterly. "Passed down. Maintained, but rarely improved. We mock other species for their weakness, but at least they try to grow stronger." She turned to face him fully. "Tell me more about human innovation. Show me how your people think." Cooper pulled out his tablet again, but this time he opened a game of chess. "Here's a good example. This is how we teach strategic thinking to children." Cthera learned the rules quickly, her silver eyes intense with concentration. During their first game, she played like an Amazonian warrior, aggressive, direct, sacrificing pieces for quick victories. She lost in 12 moves. Their second game lasted longer. Cthera started watching Cooper's patterns, adapting her strategy. By their third game, she was thinking several moves ahead. "Remarkable," she said after Cooper finally called for a break. "A simple game, yet it teaches complex concepts. Do all humans learn this?" "Many do. We have thousands of different games, each teaching different skills. Humans love to learn through play." Cthera stood and walked to the window, looking out at the jungle beyond the base. "My people once had such curiosity. Before we became obsessed with physical perfection, with proving our superiority." She turned back to Cooper. "You know what the other guards whisper? They say I am too interested in humans, that I dishonor my position as war leader." Cooper met her gaze steadily. "And what do you think?" "I think," she said slowly, "that strength without growth is stagnation. And stagnation is a slow death." She gestured at the chessboard. 3 games, 3 different strategies. You humans never stop adapting, never stop learning. That is true strength. Before Cooper could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the base. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. "Multiple unknown ships entering orbit," the base AI announced. "Non-Amazonian signatures detected. All personnel to battle stations." Cooper and Cthera locked eyes. Their cultural exchange was about to be tested in fire and blood. The base shook as the first orbital strikes hit the planetary defense shields. Cooper rushed to the command center, aware that Cthera was following him. No one tried to stop her. They had bigger problems. "Report," Cooper called out as he entered the command center. "Dreknid warships, sir," Lieutenant Chen answered, her fingers flying over the tactical displays. 15 vessels. They're hitting both us and the Amazonian settlements to the north." Cthera's face darkened. "Dreknids. Slave takers. They raid worlds for workers in their toxic mines. Another explosion rocked the base. The shields were holding, but they wouldn't last forever. Cooper watched the tactical display, his mind racing. The Dreknids were splitting their forces between the human base and the Amazonian settlements, clearly hoping to overwhelm both. Thera, Cooper turned to the Amazonian warrior. This is your chance to escape in the chaos. No one would blame you. Thera looked at him with those silver eyes, and missed the chance to fight alongside humans, to see how you adapt to this challenge. She bared her teeth in a fierce grin. Never. Sir, Chen called out. Dreknid dropships launching. Ground forces incoming. Cooper studied the tactical display. They're using standard Dreknid assault patterns. They always attack the same way because it usually works. He looked at Cthera. But what if we gave them something new? Thera leaned forward, interested. What do you propose, small warrior? Your people are stronger, faster, better at direct combat, Cooper said quickly. But we're better at tactical coordination and ranged warfare. Apart, we might lose. Together we might survive. Cthera finished. She activated her armor's communication system. I can contact my warriors. Will your commander allow this joint operation? The base commander, Colonel Rivera, had been listening. Right now, I'll take any advantage we can get. Make it happen, Cooper. The next 20 minutes were a blur of preparation. Cooper quickly organized mixed squads. Amazonian warriors paired with human fire teams. The humans would provide covering fire and tactical support, while the Amazonians would engage in close combat where they excelled. Remember, Cooper told the assembled troops, Dreknids expect everyone to fight like they do. Head on. Full force. They won't expect humans and Amazonians fighting as one. The first wave of Dreknid forces hit the jungle perimeter hard. They were ugly creatures, heavily armored, carrying plasma weapons. They charged forward in their typical fashion, straight ahead, relying on brute force and numbers. They never knew what hit them. Human snipers and missile teams broke up their formations while Amazonian warriors struck from multiple directions. When the Dreknids tried to regroup, they found their communications jammed by human electronic warfare. When they tried to call down orbital support, they discovered their signals couldn't penetrate the electronic interference. Thera fought beside Cooper, her massive strength complementing his tactical guidance. When a Dreknid breached their position, she crushed its armor with her bare hands. When another squad tried to flank them, Cooper's quick thinking and well-placed grenades drove them back. Cooper, Cthera shouted over the battle noise. Look at our warriors. Human and Amazonian soldiers were working in perfect sync. Human tech experts had linked their targeting systems to Amazonian armor, creating a unified battlefield network. Amazonian warriors were calling out targets for human heavy weapons teams. Both sides were learning from each other, adapting, becoming stronger together. They're retreating. Chen's voice came over the comm. Dreknid forces are falling back to their ships. Cheers erupted from both human and Amazonian troops. Thera turned to Cooper, her armor dented but her eyes shining with excitement. This, she said firmly, this is what my people have been missing. Not just strength, but innovation, adaptation, the willingness to change and grow. She looked at Cooper with new intensity. And I know now what I must do about it. Cooper felt his heart race, and not just from the battle. Something in Cthera's voice told him that everything was about to change. The victory celebration at Forward Operating Base Echo was unlike anything Cooper had ever seen. Humans and Amazonians filled the main hall, sharing stories of the battle and comparing combat techniques. The size difference between the species made for some funny moments, especially when an excited Amazonian warrior accidentally bumped her head on a ceiling light. Cthera had been quiet since the battle, watching everything with intense focus. Cooper noticed she kept looking at him, then looking away quickly when he caught her gaze. Something was clearly on her mind. Attention. Cthera's voice suddenly boomed through the hall. The room fell silent as she stood, her 8-foot frame commanding everyone's attention. I have an announcement to make. Cooper felt nervous. Was she going to return to her people now that the battle was over? For 10,000 years, we Amazonians have believed that physical strength was everything. Cthulhu began. We viewed other species as weak, unworthy. We were fools. She walked over to where Cooper sat. These humans, these supposedly weak beings, have shown us what true strength is. Murmurs filled the room. Cooper saw some Amazonian warriors nodding in agreement while others looked uncomfortable. In accordance with our oldest laws, Cthulhu continued, a war leader may choose any warrior who proves themselves exceptional in battle. She turned to face Cooper directly. Staff Sergeant James Cooper, I choose you as my mate. The room exploded in chaos. Human soldiers gasped. Amazonian warriors began arguing loudly in their native language. Cooper sat frozen, unable to believe what he'd just heard. Cthulhu, he finally managed to say, are you sure about this? The implications. I have never been more certain, she said firmly. You have shown me that the future belongs to those who can adapt, who can think differently. Your genes, your way of thinking, this is what my people need. Colonel Rivera stepped forward. War leader Cthulhu, while we're honored, this could cause a diplomatic incident. Your High Council will be informed of my decision immediately, Cthulhu interrupted. She activated her armor's communication system. In fact, they are listening now. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. 3 elderly Amazonian women, their armor decorated with ancient symbols of authority. Their expressions were thunderous. War leader Cthulhu, the central figure, spoke, her voice cold. You dishonor our people with this madness. No, honored ones, Cthulhu replied calmly. I offer our people a future. You saw the battle data. Humans don't have our strength, but their adaptability, their innovation, these are traits our species desperately needs. He is too small, another council member protested. Barely half your height. Size did not matter when his tactical genius helped defeat the Drechnids, Cthulhu countered. Or have you forgotten how many raids we lost to them before? Cooper finally found his voice. If I may speak. All eyes turned to him. I respect Amazonian traditions, and I respect Cthulhu. But this decision affects both our peoples. Shouldn't we discuss this properly? The council members looked surprised at his diplomatic response. Cthulhu smiled proudly. See, she said to the council. Wisdom, restraint, different kinds of strength. She faced Cooper. But do not think you can escape my choice, small warrior. I have made my decision. The lead council member's expression softened slightly. Perhaps there is merit in discussion. But Cthulhu, if you persist in this, he must prove himself worthy through the traditional trials. I accept, Cooper said before he could stop himself. Cthulhu's face lit up with joy. Then it is settled, Cthulhu declared. James Cooper will face the trials, and when he succeeds through human ingenuity rather than brute strength, our people will have to accept that the time for change has come. As the celebration turned into a mixture of excited discussion and worried debate, Cooper wondered what he'd gotten himself into. But looking at Cthulhu's confident smile, he couldn't bring himself to regret his decision. The trials awaited, and with them, the future of both their species. The Amazonian trial grounds stretched out before Cooper like something from an ancient gladiator arena. Thousands of Amazonian warriors filled the stands, with a small section of human observers from the base looking tiny among them. The High Council sat in their elevated platform, watching with stern expressions. Cthulhu stood at his side, explaining the trials one final time. 3 challenges, small warrior. Strength, combat, and leadership. No human has ever attempted them. Cooper checked his modified combat armor one last time. He'd spent the last week preparing, studying Amazonian traditions, and making adjustments to his equipment. Any rules against using technology? None. Cthulhu smiled. Our ancestors never thought anyone would challenge us with anything but physical power. The first trial began. A massive stone block sat in the arena's center, the trial of strength. Amazonians had to lift it and carry it across a marked line. Cooper approached it, aware of the doubtful murmurs from the crowd. Instead of trying to lift it directly, Cooper pulled out several small devices from his pack. The crowd watched in confusion as he placed them around the stone. "What trickery is this?" one council member demanded. "Anti-gravity generators," Cooper explained loudly. "Standard mining equipment." He activated them, and the massive stone began to float. Using his armor's strength assist systems, he easily pushed it across the line. The crowd erupted in a mixture of outrage and fascination. Cthera's laugh rang out above the noise. He completed the task, with wisdom rather than raw strength. The second trial was combat. Cooper faced 3 Amazonian warriors at once, each over 8 feet tall. But he'd learned from sparring with Cthera. As they charged, he activated his armor's special modifications. "Maximum mobility mode," he commanded. His armor lightened, letting him dodge with incredible speed. He used the arena's terrain, his smaller size becoming an advantage as he led his larger opponents into awkward positions. His stun weapons didn't have to penetrate their armor. They just had to hit the gaps. Within minutes, all 3 warriors were disabled without serious injury. The crowd was silent now, watching with intense interest. "He fights with mind and machine in perfect balance," Cthera announced proudly. "Is this not also strength?" The final trial. Leadership was supposed to be the hardest. Cooper had to command a mixed group of human and Amazonian warriors in a combat simulation against drone enemies. The drones attacked in overwhelming numbers. The Amazonian warriors instinctively wanted to charge, while the humans wanted to take defensive positions. Cooper had expected this. "Together," he called out. "Amazonians, you are our shield and sword. Humans, you are our eyes and coordination." He linked their combat systems like they had during the Dreknid attack, creating a unified force. What followed was a display of perfect cooperation. Amazonian warriors protected human tactical teams, who in turn guided the warriors to key positions. Cooper's strategies adapted constantly as the battle changed, showing a flexibility that amazed the watching council. When the last drone fell, the arena was silent. Cooper stood with his mixed team, all of them working together despite their differences. He looked up at the council, waiting. The head council member stood slowly. "Never in our history has anyone completed the trials in this way. You did not overpower the stone. You outsmarted it. You did not defeat the warriors through strength. You overcame them through strategy. And in leadership," she paused, "you showed us what we could become if we put aside our pride and learned to adapt." Cthera stepped forward. "The trials are complete. He has proved himself worthy not by your standards, but by showing that there are other ways to be strong." The council members conversed quietly, then nodded. "The trials are passed. The union is approved." The head council member's expression softened slightly. Perhaps it is time for the Amazonian people to learn new kinds of strength." Cooper felt Cthera's hand take his, gentle despite her enormous strength. Around them, humans and Amazonians were talking excitedly, barriers breaking down as both species began to see new possibilities. "Ready for the next challenge?" Cthera asked softly. Cooper squeezed her hand. "Together, we can handle anything." The weeks following Cooper's triumph in the trials brought more changes than the Amazonian Empire had seen in centuries. Young warriors especially were fascinated by human ways, constantly visiting the human base to learn about their technology and tactics. Cthera had become the leader of this movement for change. She stood now in the great teaching hall, addressing a mixed group of human and Amazonian students. Cooper watched proudly from the side as his soon-to-be wife taught. "Look at this human device." Cthera held up a simple tablet computer. "Their children use it to learn, to create, to imagine new possibilities. When it breaks, they fix it. When it becomes outdated, they improve it." She looked at her students, When was the last time we Amazonians created something new? A young Amazonian warrior raised her hand. But war leader, our ways have kept us strong for 10,000 years. Have they? Thera challenged. We barely defeated the Dreknid raids, but working with humans, combining our strength with their adaptability, we drove them away completely. She smiled at Cooper. Strength without growth is stagnation. The changes weren't limited to technology. Young Amazonians started wearing modified armor that valued efficiency over tradition. Some even began training in human tactical methods, learning to work in teams rather than fighting as individuals. But not everyone welcomed these changes. Cooper was walking to his quarters when his combat instincts screamed a warning. He dove forward just as an energy blade sliced through the air where his head had been. 3 large figures in traditional Amazonian armor stepped out of the shadows. "The human who corrupts our ways," one of them growled. Cooper activated his armor's combat systems. "Your people chose to change. I just showed them it was possible." The 3 warriors attacked at once, but Cooper had learned much since coming to this world. He used their size against them, his smaller frames slipping through gaps in their formation. His stun weapons were calibrated specifically for Amazonian armor now, something they didn't expect. The fight was short but intense. When Kythera and the guards arrived, they found Cooper standing over 3 unconscious traditionalists, barely out of breath. "You see," Kythera said to the gathered crowd. "He defeated 3 warriors without killing or seriously injuring them. Precision over power. Intelligence over brute force." The incident only made Cooper and Kythera more popular among the younger generation. More and more Amazonians began questioning the old ways openly. Why did they have to fight alone when teamwork made them stronger? Why couldn't they create new things instead of just maintaining the old? In the council chambers, Kythera presented her vision for the future. "Imagine our warriors with human tactical training. Imagine our strength combined with their innovation. We would be truly unstoppable." "You speak of changing everything," one council member protested. "I speak of growing stronger," Kythera corrected. "Look at the training results. Warriors using human tactics are more effective. Teams mixing both species complete missions impossible for either alone." Cooper stepped forward. "Change doesn't mean losing who you are. It means becoming more than you were." The youngest council member nodded slowly. Perhaps it is time." The young ones already embrace these new ways. They see the benefits clearly. Reports came in from across the empire. More humans and Amazonians were working together. Training centers were adopting new methods. Some Amazonian scientists even started studying human technology, looking for ways to improve their own. That evening, Cooper found Kythera watching the sunset from their quarters. "Having doubts?" he asked. She turned to him, silver eyes bright. "About you? Never. About us? Never. About the changes we're bringing." She smiled. "Change is always difficult, but it's necessary for survival, for growth." She took his hand. "The wedding tomorrow will be more than just our union. It will be a symbol of our people's future. A future we'll build together," Cooper said. What neither of them knew was that the traditionalists hadn't given up. They were planning one final desperate attempt to stop the changes. At the wedding itself, the wedding day dawned bright and clear on Amazonia. The great ceremonial arena had been transformed, decorated with both human and Amazonian symbols. Thousands gathered to witness the historic union, most in support, some in hidden opposition. Cooper stood at the ceremony platform, wearing a specially designed suit that combined Earth military dress uniform styles with Amazonian ceremonial armor. He looked tiny next to the Amazonian officials, but he stood tall and proud. Kythera approached in her ceremonial armor, its living metal shifting in beautiful patterns of blue and silver. The crowd gasped. She had modified the traditional design, incorporating human elements. To traditionalists, it was the final insult. That's when everything exploded into chaos. A group of traditionalist warriors burst from the crowd, weapons charged. "Death to the defiler of traditions," their leader shouted. But Cooper and Kythera had expected this. Now, Cooper shouted into his comm unit. Instantly, the ceremonial decorations transformed. They were actually disguised defense systems. Human tactical teams emerged from hidden positions, while loyal Amazonian warriors moved to protect the guests. "You see," Farah called out as she moved to Cooper's side, both of them falling into perfect fighting stance. "Even our wedding defense combines both our strengths." The battle was swift but spectacular. Cooper's tactical planning and Kythera's strength worked in perfect harmony. The traditionalists found themselves caught between human stun weapons and Amazonian warriors who had learned new fighting styles. The rebel leader, in desperation, charged directly at Cooper with an energy blade. But Cooper didn't dodge. Instead, he stood his ground, activated his armor's new defensive system, designed by combined human and Amazonian engineering teams, and caught the blade barehanded. The entire arena fell silent. "Impossible," the rebel leader whispered. "No," Cooper said calmly, "not impossible. Just new, different, better." With his other hand, he activated his stun weapon, and the last rebel fell. Kythera stepped forward, addressing the shocked crowd. "Look at what we can accomplish together. My mate, stop your strongest warrior not through size or strength, but through innovation, through change." The head council member stood. "The traditionalists have failed, and in failing, they have proven the very point they fought against. The old ways alone are not enough." The wedding ceremony resumed, now with even greater meaning. When Cooper and Kythera spoke their vows, they did so in both languages, creating new traditions while honoring the old. "From this day forward," Kythera declared, "let our peoples grow together. Let us take the best of both worlds and forge something greater." The celebrations lasted for days. Young warriors demonstrated new fighting styles that combined human tactics with Amazonian strength. Scientists from both species shared ideas. Children, human and Amazonian, played together, learning from each other's cultures. 1 year later, Cooper and Kythera stood on the same platform. But this time they watched as dozens of other human Amazonian couples celebrated their own unions. The Amazonian Empire had changed more in 1 year than in the previous 1,000. "Did you ever think it would turn out like this?" Cooper asked his wife, looking up at her silver eyes. Kythera smiled down at him. "When I first captured you in the jungle, never. When I saw how you thought, how you adapted, how you showed us new ways to be strong." She took his hand. "Then I knew you would change everything." "We changed everything," Cooper corrected. Together, above them, a new ship took off. The first vessel ever built by combined human and Amazonian engineering teams. It represented everything they had accomplished. Human innovation and Amazonian power working as one. The old empire of pure strength was gone. In its place, a new civilization was rising. One that valued all kinds of strength, that knew the power of adaptation and change, that understood that true greatness comes not from standing still, but from growing together. Cooper and Kythera's love had done more than unite two people. It had shown two species a better way forward, proving that the greatest strength of all lies not in power, but in the willingness to change, to learn, and to grow together. The end.